Welcome to the Member for Day podcast. I'm your host, Eric Sedrans, and today we have two special guests, Sky Friedman and Joel Friedman. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me on a Sunday morning.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Sky, I'm going to start with you. The Children's Hospital of Philadelphia is the reason we're here. It's also been a huge part of your life. Can you just tell us a little bit about your story and what you've been through so everyone has a little bit of context here?
Well, it's quite a long journey, but it basically started since before I was born when doctors noticed I had an abnormal growth in my lung. Fast forward a few months to when I was actually born, turned out that was a massive lung tumor that occupied my entire right lower lobe and was essentially a ticking time bomb for if it were to get infected, it would kill me. So at, 5 months? Mm-hmm. We went over to CHOP and they removed the entire right lower lobe of my lung, with pretty much no visible scar and very minimal effects today. Healthy lung tissue grew in its place. Maybe I have a small decrease in capacity, and a little bit of asthma, but it really doesn't affect me too much. And the care that we received there was amazing. Even after the lung thing, I had allergies and asthma that I've had to go back numerous times for, and a thyroid issue, and also growth concerns. But every time we've gone back there, from the check-in people to the nurses to the doctor, everyone always is very kind and understanding, and always puts the patient first. They always talk directly to them. They always try to make the patient feel as comfortable as possible and explain everything in as simple terms as possible, just to make the patient feel as comfortable and at home as possible. And I'm truly grateful for it. I've directly and indirectly saved my life on countless occasions. So I really can't thank them enough.
Joel, you've been through Skylar's journey. I'm curious to know what it was like to be a parent in those early days, and how has the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia supported your family over the years?
Yeah, look, it really has been a wild journey. I think Sky did a great job at summarizing it. And we have a walking, breathing 16-year-old reminder on a daily basis of how special a place that the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia is. It probably is worth me trying to go through as quickly as I can that first experience, because it does show you how special CHOP is.
Please.
When my wife was 20 weeks along and they found that lung tumor that Skylar had mentioned, they did updated x-rays and ultrasounds and perinatal visits all throughout leading up to the birth. He was delivered into the NICU, and they did updated scans at that point, and it looked like the growth was gone. And we live on Long Island, as we had talked about earlier. We live in Cold Spring Harbor. The hospital we were at is a fantastic hospital. Cohen's Children's Hospital is what it's now known for. And it's a preeminent hospital in the area. So it wasn't like we weren't at a great facility. The challenge is that people really didn't have a lot of experience dealing with what Skylar had. So we did end up having one last follow-up with a pediatric surgeon when Skylar was 3 months old. And that surgeon said, look, those scans, the x-rays and the ultrasounds, they're only so good. We really need to do a CT scan to see if it's gone. That imaging would be a little bit better. Now, Skylar was born in December of 2007. This is now March of 2008. The financial world is blowing up. I happen to be in finance, and I don't really care about that. I'm just focused on what's going on with my kid, right? It was a really scary time as a parent. And I'll never forget this, because the nurses told us that the doctor would have the results of the scan on his desk on Monday. So I call on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. Finally, the doctor calls me back. And frankly, he was a jerk. He said, Mr. Friedman, I hear you're calling the office every day. I'll get to your son's results when I get to them. He calls me back the next day to say, the results are inconclusive. I recommend we wait 9 or 12 months, and we'll see what we're dealing with then. Now, at that point, my wife deserves a ton of credit. She was a physician's assistant. Plus, our pediatrician at the time had actually trained at CHOP, luckily. PJ Kavanaugh was his name. And he said to Jamie, look, the world's expert in fetal lung abnormalities is based at CHOP. His name is Scott Adzik, and you should go see him. So my wife says, "Look, that's a 3-hour drive for us. We're stupid if we don't go down there and take a look at it." And so we do that. And Dr. Adzik took one look at the scan results. So yeah, the problem is this guy did a CT scan without contrast. You need to do one with contrast where they inject the dye to really see what we're dealing with. And once we did the proper imaging, it was clear as day. That growth took up his whole right lower lobe. It had its own blood supply as big as his aorta. And as Skylar said, I think his phrasing was perfect. It was a ticking time bomb. It needed to come out. And so in May of '08, they worked in an incision like only that big in between his ribs. And, think about how small a 5-month-old is, right? And they cut out his whole right lower lobe of his lung, half of his right lung. And I always like to tell that story because I really think it highlights just how important it is to be an advocate for yourself in anything that you're dealing with medically, but especially with kids. It's very important to make sure that you're going to the expert, right? I mean, in some ways, like I said, we live on Long Island, so there's an arrogance about the level of medical care in the tri-state area. And anybody, like if you're in a big city, you always think that my hospital is the best. And the answer is no, like the expert in fetal lung abnormalities. I mean, Dr. Adzik must see 500 cases like that a year, whereas this guy locally is lucky if he sees one every couple of years.
Right.
And so that's why, like, we credit Chop with saving his life, because had we listened to the local doctor, there's no question in my mind Skylar wouldn't be here.
And I'd like to say that experience might have changed him, but we saw he now drives a iridescent Tesla, so with a vanity plate. So I would assume that shows that he has not changed.
Yeah.
We won't go there.
No, we won't.
Sky, you've obviously faced some serious health challenges, but it hasn't stopped you from dreaming big. It seems like it's given you this energy that not a lot of people in this world have. I'm curious to know how this difficult journey has sort of inspired your passion for life.
Well, I think it can best be summed up in a phrase that I use maybe a little bit too often, but it could be worse. Like, I've been through a lot, but I've also been very lucky with the care that I've received and like with how things have turned out that have been up to chance. So I just view it like that. Like, yeah, in the moment, something may suck, but there are many people dealing with much worse. So I just push through and deal with it. And it just makes me feel like that more compassionate and willing to give back to those people that actually are dealing with something worse.
It's a very good way to go through life, Sky. You're a mature 16-year-old for saying that, and I'm not surprised by what you've been through. Joel, I guess I want to ask you this question. What advice would you give to other parents that are going through a similar situation? I'm sure there's probably some that'll be listening to this podcast, and maybe you can share some anecdotes or advice.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like Skylar's life philosophy is kind of what he jokingly calls it is true, right? It could be worse. I think there's plenty of times, given everything he's been through, where you almost want to look to the heavens and be like, what's going on? Like, why does this poor kid have to deal with so much? And yet at the same time, he's right. It could be worse. I mean, I'll never forget it. At one point when he was hospitalized for asthma pretty early on, and he had just been through, the lung surgery. I think at this point he also had been diagnosed with his severe food allergies, which is something that he touched on earlier. But Skylar's never eaten in a restaurant. He's 16 years old, and his food allergies hopefully have gotten to the point where that's on the horizon. Is something we can do soon, but they're severe, and they do affect his life on a daily basis. But he's always got such a positive attitude about it because of that attitude of like, I know it could be worse. And maybe the affiliation with CHOP is helpful in that regard because he knows of stories of kids with leukemia or other really, really challenging things that, may shorten their life, right? And so I think he's just grateful that he's here. But I will never forget him being hospitalized with asthma and having that parental frustration, like, what more can my kid take? Like, why are we being thrown this? And we ended up sharing a room with someone who was a teenager who was unfortunately severely mentally handicapped. And like, man, I felt like such a jerk. Like, what is wrong with me that I didn't have the perspective to really think through, like, hey, be thankful for the blessings that you truly do have. Yeah. So I guess that would be my advice to whatever parent, right? There's nothing you can do. Life is life. Sometimes it throws you curveballs, and wallowing in your frustration doesn't really get you anywhere.
Well, Sky, let's talk about some positive stuff. Let's talk about the 100 putt challenge,
Yep.
an event you co-founded. I think 16 years old, or was it? Were you younger when you founded this? How old were you?
I was like
10.
10.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna
10
say,
when
yeah,
I
you must have been younger. Yeah, sorry, my notes were wrong here. Um, can you tell the listeners about it? What inspired you to start it? Just tell me everything. I'd love to hear this story.
Yeah, so the quick condensed version is Adam had just joined like North Shore like a year or two prior, and we had started working with him, and he brought up at one point that he did a marathon for like another charity event one year, but he was so touched by my story that he wanted to make Chop like benefactor of like a golf marathon where he would play as many holes as he could, try to get donations and like raise money that way. The first year I did it, with like the first year we had the event, I was Adam's caddy essentially, and that basically it was basically like that for the first 2 years.
Hmm.
Then year three was kind of coming out of like COVID was starting up a little bit, so we were kind of bored out of our mind. So I wanted to get involved in some way, like and get out of the house, like help them, but I was. How do I put this in a way that makes me feel not feel like terrible about this? But I was very, very small, and not really in the physical condition to play 24 hours of golf
Yeah,
as a 13-year-old.
yeah.
So we decided, you know what? Let's just do 100 putts and see how many of those 100 putts I can make, and go with donations through there. And I believe first year I did it, I sunk like 82, 84 putts.
What?
Yeah. And then it gets better though, because next year we did it. I basically boxed it out to the point where I couldn't do the event anymore because I sunk 98 or 97 out of 100 putts, and
Holy
we
cow.
couldn't really market that in a way that was effective. So we just decided, you know, I'll do 100 holes this year. Let's roll this out to other people and see if like basically say, hey, can you beat this? And you can reach out to whoever you can, see how many putts you can make. Maybe have your friends place bet on you, because we all know our friends love to bet against us. So probably tapping into that a little bit, try to drain people's wallets a little bit through that.
Yeah.
And then yeah, that's basically what we did last year, and what we're going to do this year is basically go full on into the 100 putt challenge, make that the main event, where we just try to roll it out and get as many people signed up to do the 100 putts as possible, and get as many like other friends and family to donate as possible. And we actually have a stat on like how much that improved donations. We had one person who donated $600 one year, but then when him and his son did the challenge, they raised a total of $3,700-ish and
Nice.
brought in 23 different donors. So
Nice.
like that was insanely higher donations, and 23 times the like awareness that we brought. So we're hoping like that's what we can do. Like we can just tap into as many people's network as possible to get as many donations and just awareness as possible.
So, just so you know, I just looked this up while you were talking. On the PGA Tour, do you know the average? What percentage of
I think
six
it's
footers are made?
we looked it up after the first year. I think it was like 66 or something like that.
I'm seeing 70%. Yeah, so maybe you got a future as a putting or mini golf champion. I don't know.
I mean, I mean, in my defense, so they were pretty much all the same putt on
Right.
flat surface. They're doing like 6 foot putts that are all different banking and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I like to think of it like that because it does fuel my ego a little bit. But
It is kind of funny how it evolved too, because initially it was Adam wanted to do that marathon, and Skylar wanted to help, and then Skylar kind of realized, hey, look, like the whole idea of playing as many holes as you can in a short period of time is like grueling, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm a little guy, I can't do that, but I can do 100 6-foot putts, you know, and then we could try to get people to give donations on a per putt, you know, or flat basis, and we did that for a couple of years, and definitely the amount we were raising was growing. But Adam, me, and Skylar kind of realized, like, look, I'm a bond trader. Adam's a golf pro. Like, our network is only so big. I'm not a social media influencer, which is why we're so happy with the member for a day affiliation, because you guys have really, really broad reach. But the goal was like, how do we get this in front of as many eyeballs as we can and have it be as accessible as possible? And that was Skylar's idea. It's like, you know what? Why don't we roll out the 100 putt challenge and let other people sign up and do it, as opposed to just sponsoring us, right? Because he's right. Like, post COVID, people were also asking, like, hey, what can we do to be more involved, right? Like, it's one thing to write a check, but then not think about it. It's another thing for someone to get involved and get their networks involved. And that's sort of when the light bulb went off. Like, this is great. This would be a great way for us to tap into other networks, because our network is only so big. So the more people who sign up, and the one he references, perfect, right? Like, we had one person write a $600 check, which is awesome, right? Like, no qualms with that whatsoever. But when that person got involved and started promoting, like, hey, I'm doing this challenge, we're trying to raise money for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. The son had actually played in junior PGA events with Skylar, so he was able to say, like, my buddy Skylar has been treated by CHOP, and it's such a wonderful place. And so, like, he said it perfectly, that it's not just about funds, it's also about awareness. Like, we tapped into so many more people. I think the growth and the number of individual donations over the years has been exponential, because of the fact that we've rolled out the 100 putt challenge to try to get other people to sign up. So if there's any like little commercial I would say to the people listening is, like, if please get involved, sign up, go to the website that I'm sure Eric's going to provide, and sign up and do the 100 putt challenge yourself.
Yeah, Joel, I was gonna ask, can you share some statistics? How much has been raised? How many people participated? Any other statistics that you can share?
Yeah, we actually have it. We got it pulled up specifically because we thought you were going to ask that, but we have for the first 2 years we didn't keep track of donors, but we have the first year we raised $17,500. Second year we rose around 26,000. Year 3 we rose 103,000 with 66 different donors. Then year 4 we did 137,000 with 168 different donors, and then last year was 163,000, but with 358 individual donors.
Wow.
So cumulatively, we raised just shy of $500,000.
And what do you attribute the growth specifically in the amount of participants? Like, where are they coming from? How are they hearing about it?
I mean, honestly, I think it was the main thing that brought in participants, I think, was the idea. It was just simple to do. Like, you can, as long as you have a putter, a ball, and like, it doesn't even like a cup, you can do the 100 putt challenge, which is why, like, I think so many people were willing to do it. And because we're golfers and we know how much people's putting sucks, people want to change that. So we kind of used that and basically said, like, hey, you want free putting and you get to help a charity? We have this for you. And like, you don't even have to be on a course to do it. Like, if you have a putting mat in your basement, you can do it. I even saw one of the PGA golfers on Instagram once putt on a plane. So if you have a long plane ride, grab a putter, a ball, and a cup, and you can literally do it on the plane. Not sure you get past security with the putter, but it's worth a shot.
I love that. Joel, what's been the most rewarding part of seeing Skylar take the lead and start something like this?
He's been asked to be the patient speaker at the Chop Golf Classic, which is a big outing they have in New Jersey. I remember when he did it at 10 years old. He brought the house down. It was like over 250 people, and he had like such a big smile on his face at the lectern that he could barely like see over the top of. He gave a great speech to the point where I think that year their special guest was Corey Clement, who had just scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl and was like a Philadelphia Eagles. And like, Clement was sitting at our table and he turned to me and goes, I don't want to go up there. I don't want to follow him. So it's just like, those kinds of experiences have been a lot of fun for him. But I think also he genuinely derives a lot of joy from being able to spread the message out there to as many people as possible, right? The awareness aspect of it, because, I think for better or worse, CHOP early on in its history made the choice to focus really more on the clinical care side of things and not as much on the marketing side of things. And there's another hospital that I refrain from using the name, but everyone's seen the commercials. And it's a fantastic place. I'm not bad-mouthing any children's hospital. They're all wonderful and they do amazing things, right? But there's one that I'm sure everyone can think of. You see the commercials. They tug at your heartstrings and they do a great job of marketing themselves. And that's one thing that CHOP did not do a good job of, but they would admit early on, of marketing themselves. And so anything we could do to try to help, like, get the word out there of just how special a place it is. I mean, there are tons of stats on the website for the event, but the fact that I think the Center for Fetal Diagnosis and Treatment, which is the division that did Skylar's surgery, and they do other things as well. There's a lot of research too. They're on the cusp of curing sickle cell anemia. Same thing. They've come up with a standard of care for curing spina bifida. They're working on an artificial womb, which is almost sounds like something out of Star Trek, right? I mean, if a preemie, you think about all the health things that occur in like an infant, if they're born super early, and if they could actually be able to have almost like an artificial womb that lets them get the full gestation, that would solve a lot of health issues that someone who was born as a preemie, would otherwise have to deal with. So the things they're doing there are really cutting edge and frankly, just miracles, right? But I think the Center for Fetal Diagnosis and Treatment has treated kids from all 50 states and from 70 different countries. And they will not turn anybody away. If you need help, with your funding to be able to get there, there's ways to do that. They have a Ronald McDonald House right nearby. So the message really is pure. It's we just want to try to help people. And so that, I think, has been the biggest impact and joy I've gotten, is seeing Skylar derive so much from being able to spread that message.
Well said. Joel, obviously, part of the reason we're here is because we're running another auction for CHOP. Y'all always have great experiences. Are there any specific ones you're super excited about and want to highlight in our chat today?
Well, I know we're still gathering a lot of the foursomes for it, but I think there's going to be one potentially from Fisher's Island. I know that's a really sought out one that people love to play there. I know I did see that Southampton Golf Club was willing to donate again this year, and that one was a good one last year. So there's always some fantastic, exclusive courses in there. We're biased. We happen to like North Shore Country Club where we are, and that's an old Seth Rayner course that I'd be doing the current superintendent, Austin, a disservice if I didn't champion the amazing job he's done there. For the golf aficionados, definitely the ones who know the Long Island area, Glen Oaks has a fantastic reputation and is known for being really well manicured, top of the line, and the superintendent there has a huge following within the golf community. Austin came from Glen Oaks and is one of his disciples, and you can see that influence on the course. It's really in fantastic shape. It's challenging, narrow fairways, really tricky greens. So for the pure golfers out there, I would definitely be biased, and I feel like it's our home club. We've been there since Skylar was 7 years old, so I feel like that's one to highlight for sure.
Love it. Sky, I got one last question for you.
All right.
If you could challenge anyone, past or present, to a 100 putt duel, who would it be and why?
Oh my. I mean, the first person that comes to mind is Happy Gilmore, because I feel like that one.
That's fantastic idea. Adam Sandler, you're hereby challenged by Sky Friedman to the 100 putt challenge. Good job. Do it for the kids, man.
Maybe you need to get a role in Happy Gilmore too. I heard they're looking for extras.
Yeah, I heard somewhere that the line for the extras is 6 blocks long.
Everyone wants a shot, but they don't have your story, Sky. I'll tell you that. Guys, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me. Sky, you're an inspiration. You know that. You don't need me to tell you that. I think I'm definitely going to be participating in the 100 putt challenge. So that there'll be a video for that sometime soon. And of course, we'll be sharing the link on social and email so that anyone in the Member for Day community who wants to participate and should participate can. So thank you guys. I don't know if there's anything else you want to share with parting words, but I'd love to just give you the floor for the next minute if you have anything to say.
Try to beat my record. That's my message to anyone watching. Try to beat 97 out of 100. You'll get obsessed with it, and you will raise a lot of money with it. Probably drive yourself a little insane, but it will help the kids.
Yeah, look, that's the ultimate message, right? I mean, it's easy to do. It takes 20 to 30 minutes to actually do the putting. Spread the word within your network and help us raise as much awareness as we can for a children's hospital. Oh, by the way, improve your putting, right? So if there's anything we could try to do to get this to be this year's Ice Bucket Challenge and get it to go viral, then that would be it.
Joel, Sky, thank you. I appreciate everything you do, and talk to you soon.
Anytime. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate you making the time.